This is the SimRig 5 by the Virtual Reality Racing Club, and it's the SimRig that I've been using for the past 3 months whilst wasting my life live streaming on Twitch, and I have to say it's an absolutely fantastic SimRig. So in this video I'm going to go over what this SimRig does well, what it could do better, and also reiterate the fact that T-slot is the way to go if you want a rock solid simulator.
Now the SimRace 5 SimRig arrives flat packed in boxes ready for either yourself or a slave labourer from the Virtual Reality Racing Club to assemble it for you. So I could drink more tea and focus on the filming, I forced Rich from the Virtual Reality Racing Club to do the building whilst I distracted him with inane conversation.
Sail away, sail away, sail away.
That was random.
If you're not familiar with T-slot SimRigs, they're basically like giant Meccano sets. Putting them together is super simple, with it involving you sliding bolts down the gaps in the profile, which then allows you to screw things together using a combination of corner pieces and brackets. After building a couple of these types of SimRigs for myself, you're generally talking around about 4 to 6 hours to fully put one together. Typically, the hardest part of building these rigs is getting the uprights in the right position and totally locked down, but the trickiest part for me has always been if you go for optional seat slider rails. For some reason they're just designed to be the most fiddly annoying thing on earth. 100% worth the pain, but you've been warned. Another warning that you should heed is that a T-slot SimRig is never truly finished. You can always adjust it, you can always add to it, and that is the real joy of extruded aluminum profile.
So here we have it, we've got the rig in its final full configured form with the Airlogs handbrake, the Airlog sequential shifter, a half mechanical keyboard, a Fanatec Podium DD wheel, and the Fanatec CSL load cell pedals, all attached and wired up, ready to go. Now you might be saying to yourself, hang on a minute, it looks very similar to other T-slot SimRigs. In fact, all T-slot SimRigs tend to look pretty much the same. And really that's not a surprise, because T-slot itself is a pretty standardised component and is used for loads of things, even outside of SimRigs. But what differentiates one T-slot SimRig to another are the lengths of T-slot that the manufacturer's actually chosen, the thickness of the T-slot pieces, and then crucially things like the pedal tray, the way the pedal tray is mounted to the rig, the wheel tray and the way the wheel tray is mounted to the rig, and then the actual quality of the brackets and the finishing bits of plastic that make it all look sexy and polished, as opposed to a piece of raw industrial equipment. So looking closer at these key components, we'll start with the pedal tray here, and what you find is that VRRC have made absolutely the right decisions in making sure that the pedal tray is a complete chonkus. It's, I think, around about 4mm, maybe even 5mm thick, and you don't get any flex in it at all. You can literally you can bounce up and down on it. The back of the rig is lifting up before there's flex in the pedal tray. To show the lack of flex on the pedal tray, I'm going to now push the brake pedal as hard as I physically can. My knee just clicked. But also what's really nice is the mounting solution for the pedal tray on this rig, with these upright beams that allow you a huge amount of versatility in where you can actually place the pedal tray, allowing you to then not only angle the pedals exactly where you want them, accommodating all the different types of pedals you might use, but also allowing you to get a lot of range of height with the pedals, which really comes into effect if you are using different types of seats. So it gives you a really good choice, or a lot of options in the type of seat that you can use, from a bucket seat that's completely flat to a more reclined bucket seat like what I'm using here, or if you're just using a standard car seat. Basically, this arrangement gives you solidity, but the ability to fiddle with it until you die of old age. You don't really tend to see many of the SimRig manufacturers that do T-slot SimRigs selling them in this configuration with these upright bits of T-slot for you to then move the pedal tray on. You know, if you're just using a bucket seat and you know you're doing that, you wouldn't necessarily need these. But if you want a rig that will accommodate anything, that is an absolutely awesome addition to just have out of the box with this SimRig. Now in my case, with the CSL load cell pedals that I've been using, I'm not actually using these front uprights with the pedal attached to it. I've just mounted the pedal tray to the bottom part of the SimRig and then the back uprights, and that's allowed me to get it exactly where I wanted it to. Now it's worth saying that you can slide this pedal tray forwards and backwards a bit as well on the actual rig itself without any other equipment. But if you're using high-end pedals that come with their own pedal tray, you can mount seat sliders to that tray and then you can slide your pedals further forwards and backwards on the fly without having to undo everything. But absolutely, they've done an absolutely fantastic job with this the pedal tray itself and then the actual pedal tray arrangement. Top notch. Moving on from the pedal tray, we then have the upright supports. And as you can see here, they use like a clamp system with 2 bolts going into the side of the profile on one side, 2 on the other side, and then of course the bolts there that attach the clamp to the base of the SimRig. And this was obviously installed 3 or so months ago. I've done a lot of racing on this rig since then, and I've not had to tighten it. It's remained completely rock solid since it was actually put together. This is just like, it does the job as good as you could possibly want anything to do the job. Now the reason that's important is because these uprights then go to support the wheel deck, which is what your wheel attaches to, which is what then gives you that sense and feel of solidity from your force feedback. And it's the reason why people with direct drive wheels or high power steering wheels tend to go for T-slot SimRigs. They are absolutely rock solid. A nice thing is though, when we were building this rig, you can get the uprights attached to the clamp part and then you can actually undo them a little bit and then move both of them to get them actually into position. Whereas on some other rigs, when you put this upright piece onto the rig with the clamps, some of the bolts aren't necessarily as easy to access. So this clamp is simple, does the job, makes it easier to build and holds it all into place. So absolutely fantastic way of getting the uprights into position and totally locked down. Now with the wheel tray, it's a pretty standard wheel tray. It just goes across the 2 uprights. Super chunky piece of steel that is drilled to support all the major wheels that are currently on the market. There are some additional slots and holes drilled in the side parts of the wheel tray that allow you to manipulate and move the wheel and get the angle of the wheel just right. Now I will say, once you've actually got it on the rig, getting it into perfectly the correct position is a little bit fiddly, and to be honest, it's a little bit fiddly on all the rigs I've used. I've not used one T-slot SimRig or one wheel tray where you can easily adjust the wheel position like you could in a real car. You know, in a real car, you just push a button, you can move the wheel however you want, nice and gently. It's always a pain in the arse with Allen keys to get this in the right place. But because it's got those holes in there, you can get it in the right place. You can get it in the right place, it's just going to be a bit of a fiddle. You do have quite a bit of range in terms of how much you can move the wheel forwards and backwards, or the pedal tray forwards and backwards, which then saves you obviously having to move the uprights forwards and backwards, which is awkward to do once you've already got everything in place and the wheel on the rig. It'd be nicer if someone did have a more elegant way of being able to adjust it without having to do the fiddly Allen key stuff, but it does the job, and I found once you've locked it into place, you don't tend to move it anyway. Now the SimRig 5 also comes with this mounting point here that attaches to the upright and the base of the rig, and that gives you a really solid platform for your handbrakes, your shifters, or any other accessories that you want to add to your rig. And like the rest of the rig, this is absolutely rock solid, which is fantastic if you're going to use stuff like this A-log sequential shifter or some of the stronger H-pattern shifters out there where you want them on something that's just not going to move at all. And of course, the benefit of having this mounting arm in this arrangement where it attaches to the base and then across the upright is that you're getting even more firm, solid support from the uprights. Though, to be honest, even without that arm on it, these uprights are pretty solid. Now, in terms of the seat, we've got the GT-F1 seat on this, which is a chair produced by the Virtual Reality Racing Club, and it's basically a very padded and somewhat wide bucket seat. Now, for me personally, I can't normally sit in bucket seats because my back starts to go very quickly, especially if they're set in the upright position. But what's really nice with this is that using the OBP brackets that it comes with, and by tilting it, even someone like me with a horrendous back can actually get it in a position that's quite comfortable that allows for 10+ hours of live streaming. Now, I did find though that the padding on the lumbar was not enough for me, and I'd need to just stick a little memory foam pillow on it in order to make it nice and comfortable. I'd imagine if you don't have back problems, you could probably use it without the pillow, and I think the vast majority of people would probably prefer to use a bucket seat in a flatter position, not as reclined as I do, but it's nice that you've got that versatility and the options from it. There is one thing though, if you do use it as reclined as I do, you don't get that much leg space underneath the rim when it comes to shifting and heel and toeing. But I don't know how they could really find a way around that. And to be honest, if you're running this more reclined and you've got yourself low and you've got your pedals higher, you're more in a Formula situation where you're not actually lifting your foot up so high to shift. You're more just using the Formula wheel and driving it like an F1 car rather than a GT car where you'd be sat more upright with the pedals lower. But I have to say, this is literally, in this arrangement, this is literally the only bucket seat that I can sit on for multiple hours without wanting to go to the hospital. In terms of the overall seat quality though, as well, some downsides of it, I say the stitching is a little bit erratic in places and not as tight as you might expect from some of the other chairs on the market, and the finish of it is really durable. I don't see this wearing out. I put hundreds of hours on this and it still looks like it did when it was brand new, but the finishing on it is a little bit harsh, so if you want a sim race with no clothes on, you might find it a bit harsh on your skin. But if, like me, you want to eat porridge in your sim rig, spill it on it and then wipe it off and have it still look new, it's actually pretty good for that. So, you know, it's a pretty nice solution. I think ultimately, if it was me going for this sort of T-slot sim rig generally, I'm definitely more of the road car type seat person rather than going for bucket seats. But if you wanted a bucket seat that's very accommodating and quite comfortable for those of us that are a little bit more chubby-dubbed, this is a pretty fine option. Now, those of you with great vision will have noticed that I was hiding my little modifications that I've already made to the rig in the form of the SHH shifter, which I've attached just using the standard T-slot bolts here and a L bracket, and then put that on here. And then I've also added another bar, again with another L bolt. You don't have to use the proper stuff, you can just stick stuff on it and add bits to it. And this has added a bar here and across here, so on the other side I have an additional mounting point for a mouse mat and anything else that I want to attach to this bit of T-slot. But this upright and this crossbar and these L brackets are not with the SimRig 5x VRRC, but it's a good example of how with a T-slot SimRig you can literally just bolt stuff on. We've also added the LED light with an L bracket and a bolt, and that's on there, it's not going to go anywhere. Also, I replaced the foot stands that come with it using with just caster wheels that you can get from Amazon, and locking caster wheels, and that's so I can do my review stuff more easily or move it around this wood floor room more easily. Absolutely fantastic, and as I say, you're never going to stop upgrading it.
To finish things off, we've got the Nordschleifer here, a GT2 car, the Fanatec podium set to 100% force feedback, and then we've got the rig in our live streaming configuration, which means I've got my face cam here attached to the upright, and I don't attach it very well. If I tap it, you can see it's wobbling. It's really loose. It's literally the worst way to attach a camera to a rig. Like a finger tap, and we're doing the Saving Private Ryan beach landing just from a tap of the finger. But what this is a really good example of how little things wobble and vibrate. Because if they did, you will see it move very obviously. So let's get driving here. As I say, 100% force feedback on the wheel, which is, I don't know how many newtons exactly, probably like 15 or so Newton meters maximum. But as you can see, despite the fact that the wheel is putting out quite substantive forces into my hands, the rig is pretty damn rock solid. There's a tiny bit of camera movement there with it with the camera being totally loose, but you know, it's utterly imperceptible through your hands. Let's try to rock the car a bit and see if we can get a bit of an oscillation going on it. Okay, that will make it wobble. But if you're driving properly, absolutely rock solid. And I've actually put cups of tea on the rig and not realised, because normally you want to put your cups of tea on a separate table, not realising it's not spilt, and I've been genuinely surprised. There's also a mouse on the mouse mat here. That's just sat on the side there. It's not falling off the rig. So you can see my arms moving for the force feedback. So it's absolutely incredible how solid this rig is. And the thing is that if you've got a completely solid platform with your wheel on, what it means is that you just feel all those little subtle details rather than getting murked through the bending and moving of a SimRig. You feel all those little details into your wrist, and you absolutely give yourself permanent RSI damage, which of course is the best thing about sim racing, because it gives you an excuse for why your wrists are hurting. At the time of making of this video, the SimRace 5 Cockpit is only available through the Virtual Reality Racing Club store. I put a link in the video description for those of you that want to check it out. But through that store, you can choose the chassis colour, and you've got the option between having a blue SimRig, a red SimRig, or a black SimRig like the one I'm using. Interestingly, it does say on the website for an additional cost and time to your order, you can go for whatever colour you want. So those of you that want a bright pink SimRig, here's your opportunity. There's also the options for the type of feet the rig comes with, if you want a integrated display mount, or if you want to go for the DIY build option or the slave build option, which of course I took advantage of. All said and done, one absolute tank of a SimRig. Now, it is definitely worth saying that I don't think everybody necessarily needs such a chonkus of a rig. Even if you've got a direct drive wheel, and even if you've got high-end load cell pedals, I think a lot of people would still be more than happy with some of the lighter T-slot rigs. Even on the Virtual Reality Racing web store, they've got a SimRig 3, I think it is, that's just the same sort of configuration but just lighter T-slot. And I think a lot of people would be really happy with that and get the same sort of value from it. But if you want to go all in and literally have something that's immovable, you could do the D-Day beach landings in and be totally immune from gunfire, then this is a great rig to go for. You can't trust anything I say though, because it's T-slot, and anything with the word T in it, I'm a 10 out of 10. I'm going for it. It doesn't matter, it's got T in it. Fantastic. So, you know, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found this review useful. Of course, we're going to keep live streaming with this rig in the mighty SimRig throne. I've actually just turned into the Angel Gabriel here. This is sunlight from the UK. What on earth? So, yeah, we're going to keep streaming with this rig. You can ask questions there. You can ask questions under this video if you have any, and I'll just answer them. We're going to be doing some other stuff with this rig soon as well, some different pedals, so look out for that. But if you do get one of these rigs and you go into the virtual reality web store, you're buying anything off there, use the code DDGIRL. It might get you a discount, but crucially, it tracks if you've bought something, and then they know that it was worth them imbuing me with a SimRig. So thank you, everyone. Happy tea drinking. See you in the next video. Goodbye.